the project. So we're going to get right into it with the books that I made. The bookshelves were completed at the end of chapter 1, and now I'm putting 372 books into the bookshelves so that I can place them within the library. When you make that many books, it takes a long time to put them in the shelves. I probably spent too much time of the video on this part of the build, but it definitely took a long time to do this. After a few seconds, you'll see a couple leaning tower of books that I put together so that the entire build wasn't completely consumed by bookshelves, and it adds a little comical effect to the finished product. Then in a few seconds I'll get into some scrolls, so that way the bookshelves have a little variation to them. But I'll let you watch, and we'll get back to you when the bookshelves are done. Here I'm starting to glue the bookshelves to the model. Near the end of this little clip I'll show what the entire diorama looks like with all the bookshelves glued onto the main floor and underneath the loft and on top of the loft, so you can get a good view of what it looks like. Okay, here I'm using the chopper to try and figure out 45-degree angles for the wood topping that I'm going to put on top of the bricks for a more finished look. We'll see this more at the end of the video when I show the final pictures. Here I'm using granny grating, which you can get at the craft or the hobby store, and it's going to be inside the window frames, and it's going to represent the lead that was holding the glass into the window frames. This is the Minwax Early American stain for the wood for the frames of the window, and the Army Painter's metallic paints series. I don't recall which color I used, but any of the metallics would work probably, except for gold. And here I'm doing some work on my crazy upside down magical chandelier. If you look closely at some of the finished product pictures, you can see the flames are actually coming down from the chandelier as opposed to going up. But here I'm just trying to figure out how to string it up, how to get the lights to go, how to paint it. And here's the finished paint job, but I really had a tough time trying to figure out how to hang it from the ceiling, and came up with a solution. It was kind of weak, but you'll see it when we get near the end. This is putting the yellow cellophane on the windows so that it looks like there's yellow stained glass or something. And it's kind of just better than putting clear old plain old plastic on there. I decided to use some of the granny grating for the chandelier, and then these are some of the tables I made and some more of the books. to decorate the ground floor, and I think I even put some up in the loft. But there's more books than I had room for on the bookshelves, so I'm trying to get rid of all 372 of them. Yeah, I found 10 more books. That's what that sign says. I found 10 more that I had made for something else, so that makes 382 books. Something I'm kind of proud of, but that was a pain in the rump making all those books. And then I found a carpet at a different hobby store, and I just colored the edges so that it wasn't stark raving white. And then I went back to work on the chandelier because I couldn't really get it to the point where I wanted it to be. And still to this point, I think that I might actually redo it sometime in the not too distant future. Here we're moving on to filling up some of the little jars that I used for organic materials, spell material, components and whatnot. And there's a whole bunch of different things that I filled the jars with to make it look a little bit different for each jar. Here I'm using a chain that I found at Michael's, and I'm using the chopper to cut up some toothpicks, and I'm using part of them for the railing for the loft, because OSHA says you have to have a railing if there's an exposed edge. I'm just going to add a little bit of detail to the posts for the railing. It's just a little piece of wood that I've glued to the railing posts, and it just gives it that much more of a detailed look. It makes it a little bit more interesting. This looks a little weird, especially at fast speed, but what I'm doing is flipping the corners of the piece of paper that I printed some maps on that I found on the internet, and I'm just flipping the corners up with my finger to make it look like they're not perfectly flat pieces of paper. They're kind of rounded at the edges. Here I'm pretending to take the posts for the railing and dip them in the early American Minwax stain. I don't know why I put this on there, but I did do it twice because of the wood that they were made of. I think it was bamboo, and it didn't soak up the stain that well, but I did do 2 coats of stain on the posts for the loft. And I sanded them down a little bit to make sure they were nice and flat, and then I started to glue them onto the loft. Here you can also see the wood back when I was working on the 45-degree angles with the chopper, and I said I was going to put wood on top of the diorama. You can see it here. It gives it a more finished look and makes it a little bit more pleasing to the eye. I'm still not in love with the chandelier, but it'll do for now. This chandelier is definitely one of those less is more situations, but I'm gonna keep trying. Here I'm using the hot glue gun to add a flame effect to the light bulbs for the torches. I put the hot glue on there and then used a sculpting tool to grab a little bit and tease it up in the air. And then that's what makes it look like a flame going up towards the ceiling. And then you'll see I turn on the light at the end and it looks pretty darn good. One part of the chandelier that I did like was the flames that I made same way that I did with the torch, but I put like 3 or 4 of them on the chandelier, and then when I hang it from the ceiling, the flames are coming down from the chandelier, and it looks kind of cool, so I just called it a magic chandelier. Here I'm using a lighter to burn the little wisps off that are always there when you use a hot glue gun. And then I have no clue what I'm doing here. I don't know what I was thinking, what I was doing, what I used this for, but take it for what it's worth. Here I'm just putting the final touches on, the beam that's going to hold the chandelier. And then I move on to finding one more book that was on the floor. I give it a special place on the mantle of the fireplace. And then when that's done, I'm going to let the music take over and let you enjoy some shots of the final project. Thanks for watching, and be sure to hit likes, subscribe, share, hit the bell button, all that good stuff. But again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.